Hello everyone, welcome to the new session of Sustainable Agriculture Part 3. In this session, we are going to study about consideration of farmers' goals and their lifestyle choices. Okay, so these things are very important for the sustainable agriculture. This we are going to cover in this particular session. Again, we are also going to cover the animal production practices. So what are the animal production practices that we are going to cover up in this session? Okay, so the consideration of farmer goals and lifestyle choices. So management decision should reflect not only environmental and the broad social consideration, but also to the individual goals and lifestyle choices. So what is the lifestyle choice of a farmer? That is important. What is its individual goal? That is also important. So on the basis of these two things, the management decisions are going to take place. Okay. So only environmental factor or the social economic factor is not going to consider, but also the choice, lifestyle choice of a farmer or an individual goals of a farmer that are going to consider, and according to that, management decisions are going to take place, right? For example, adoption of some technologies or the practices that promise profitability may also require such intensive management that one lifestyle actually deteriorates. Very, very important thing. So there are so many technologies that can increase the production of the crop, right? That is quite profitable, but that requires such an intensive management system that can hinder the lifestyle of a farmer. Okay, so that actually deteriorates its lifestyle. So that is not important, right? Management decision that promotes sustainability, nourish the environment. So that particular management system should be going to opt. A farmer should opt that management system that is quite sustainable and that can nourish the environment, the community and the individual, that can nourish to that particular farmer, to that community in which he or she is living. Okay, nourish to the environment, and also that practice is sustainable. So that this management decision should be taken or adopted. In the animal production practices, next is the animal production practices. In the early part of this century, most farms integrated both crop and the livestock operations. So in the early part of this century, earlier we were using both these integrated farm system. What is this integrated farm system? That include both growing crop and livestock operations. Okay, so the integrated farm include both the things: growing of crops as well as livestock operations. And this is very, very important. And this is quite sustainable also. If a farmer is adopting this integrated farm management system, then this is quite profitable also and sustainable. Indeed, the two were highly complementary, both biologically and economically. Okay, so livestock, on the basis, if we see the livestock, then we are getting lots of manure from their waste, right? Farmer can earn from them. Okay, and they can be used for transportation, they can be used for cultivation, like directly they are impacting on the growing of crops. So this livestock operation is very, very important. Okay, so they are basically complementary biologically to the crop management as well as economically, right? The current picture has changed quite drastically since then. Crop and animal producers now are still dependent on one another, right? So animal producers and crop, they are dependent on each other. But the integration now most commonly take place at a higher level between farmers through intermediaries rather than within farm itself. But nowadays, there are so less farmers that are using this integrated crop management system, right? They are basically just focused on the growing of crops. Okay. So this is the result of trend towards separation and specialization of crop and animal production system. So after so long time, if we see back, there are a lot of change in the agriculture practices, right? Specialization of crop. The crops are quite specialized nowadays. Cropping patterns are different and animal production system are also changed. Despite this trend, there are still many farmers, particularly in the Midwest and the northeastern US, that integrate crop and animal system, either on the dairy farms or with range cattle, sheep or hog operation. But still, in many of the Midwest and the northeastern US countries, like these countries, they are still opting for the integrated crop management system. They are having the growing crops as well as the animal system. Okay. So even with the growing specialization of the livestock and the crop producers, many of the principles outlined in the crop production section apply both the groups. Still, they are interconnected. Okay, so there are a lot of specialization for the growing of livestock and for the crop producer, but still the principle is the same: integrated crop management system. The actual management practices will of course be quite different. Some of the specific points that livestock producers need to address are listed below. So these are some of the points that a livestock producer should be addressed. What are those? Management planning, animal selection, animal nutrition, and their reproduction. So these are some of the things that a livestock producer must keep in mind. First thing, management planning. What is the planning for growing the livestock, for keeping the livestock, for their nutrition? What is the space? Everything that comes under this management planning, how they are going to manage. Okay. Then comes the selection of animal. Which animal they are going to select for the livestock. Then what they are going for, its nutrition, how the nutrition can be managed. And if they are having the growing crop also, then in some season they can have the food for them. Okay, nutrition for them. And also there is a proper reproduction system. Right? So how they are going to reproduce them? Are they going for the natural reproduction or artificial insemination? Right? So all these things are very, very important for if any farmer or any livestock producer are going to opt for the animal production. Next are the herd health. If they are a big herd, then how they are going to manage the health of all the animals that are present in the herd. Herd means a group. Grazing management. How they are going to manage the grazing of this animal. Are they are having any proper land for the grazing to them? Right? And confined livestock production. So these are some of the animal production practices. The first one is management planning. Including livestock in the farming system increase the complexity of biological and economic relationship. The mobility of the stock, daily feeding, health concern, breeding operations, seasonal feed and the forage sources, and the complex marketing and the source of this complexity. So this is quite a complex system that require the attention of any animal producer on the mobility of the stock. How you are going to make mobile to all those animals that are present in the your livestock. Daily feeding, how you are going to feed so many animals, right? Health concern, what are the precautions that one must keep for the health of the animals? Breeding operation, what type of operations you are going to take for their breeding? Seasonal feed, there are so many seasonal crops, seasonal fruits, seasonal fibers. So how you are going to manage those seasonal feeds to the livestock? Forage sources, what are the sources for this forage to the animals? Because there are so many different types of food that are required by the animals, concentrate, fibers, right? Forage crops. So all that are required by your livestock. How you are going to manage that? Complex marketing. Now how you are going to market those large number of animals? So this is a very, very complex, right? So many things you are going to manage, and that is why this comes under management planning of the animal production. This is not easy. Therefore, a successful ranch plan should include, this is not an easy, a ranch plan should include enterprise calendars of operation, stock flows, forage flows, labor needs, herd production records, and land use plans to give the manager control and a means of monitoring progress towards the goals. So you require so many things, right? Herd production record, you should keep a record. For that you need a manpower. For you need a labor for managing all those stock flow, forage flow, right? Feeding to the animals, hospitality, all for everything you require some manager control as well as the labors. So that comes under the management planning. So there is a requirement of a proper management planning. Selection of animal. Next comes the selection of animal. The animal enterprise must be appropriate for the farm or ranch resource. So there must be for every livestock or every animal you are opting, there will be an appropriate farm or a ranch resource, right? So according to that, your whole planning, your whole management, that going to be changed according to the animal you are opting. So farm capabilities and the constraints such as feed, forage, source, landscape, climate, skill of the manager must be considered in selecting which animal to produce, which animal you are going to produce in your livestock. You must select the animal according to the climate of that place, according to the landscape, according to the forage source you are having, according to the feed you are giving to that animal, and above all, it all depends upon your manager, whether the manager is skilled or not. So all these things you are going to take care when you are selecting an animal for your livestock. For example, ruminant animal can be raised on the variety of feed source, including range and pasture, cultivated forage, cover crops, shrubs, weeds, crop residues. So there is a not much taking care of if you are opting the ruminant animal for feed to the animal. Okay, so there is a wide range of breeds available in each of the major ruminant species for the cattle, sheep and goats. Cattle means the cow, buffalo, right? So sheep and goats. If we are opting, then feed is not a big deal. Feed is not a big problem, right? So different types of pastures, cultivated forage, cover crop, shrub, weeds are all available everywhere. So feeding is not a problem for the ruminant animal if we are choosing for the livestock production. Hardier breeds that in general have a lower growth and milk production potential are better adapted to less favorable environments and sparse or highly seasonal forage growth. So we can go for the hardier breeds if the environment is not much favorable. Feed costs are the largest single variable cost in any livestock operation. So feeding cost is a very, very important, and it is going to vary from animal to animal, single livestock to the number of livestock. So while most of the feed may come over other enterprises on the ranch, some purchased feed is usually imported from of the farm. Okay, so many of the feeds we can get from the crop, okay, from the weeds, but there are so many other feed that we have to import off from the farm. Feed cost can be kept to minimum by monitoring animal condition and performance and understanding the seasonal variations in feed and forage quality of the farm. So we should keep this feed cost less if we are going to monitor it properly. What is the condition of animal? What is the performance? What is the understanding seasonal variation in the feed? So all these things, if you are going to cover up, then you can minimize your feed cost, and that is important. Determining the optional use of the farm generated by the products is an important challenge of the diversified farming, right? So determining the optional use, we are having so many options for each and everything, like for the feed of the animals, right? So there are so many farm generated by products that are important, right? Use now reproduction. Use of quality germplasm to improve herd performance is another key to the sustainability. Very, very important. What type of germplasm we are using for improving our herd? If we are going for the artificial insemination, means we are improving our livestock genetically by improving their variety, going for the artificial insemination. We have covered all these things in a separate session, right? So we can go for that. And in combination with the good genetic stock, adapting the reproduction season to fit the climate and source of feed for the forage reduce health problem and feed cost, right? So this good genetic stock is very, very important, and that is produced according to the season, fit the climate source of feed, forage reduce health and problems to feed cost. So all these things we must keep in mind when we are going for the reproduction of the livestock. Herd health. This is also a very big task if we are going for the animal production practices. Animal health greatly influences the reproductive success and weight gain. So two key aspects of the successful livestock production. Unhealthy stock waste feed and require additional labor. So two problems. The unhealthy stock, that is a problem, and they waste the food, right? And for that, removing that waste food, you require additional labor. Okay, so the health, keeping the health of our herd is a prime importance. A herd health program is critical to the sustainable livestock production. Grazing management, how we are managing for this grazing management. Most adverse environmental impact associated with the grazing can be prevented or mitigated with the proper grazing management. First, the number of stock per unit area, stocking rate must be correct for the landscape and the forage source. So according to the forage source we are having, according to the landscape we are having, our number of livestock should be according to that, according to these two things, forage source and the landscape, right? So in this way we can manage our grazing. There will be need to compromise between the convenience of the tillage, large unfenced field, and the fencing need to the livestock operation. So this is very important that there must be the fencing. Otherwise, this livestock going to harm other crops that is growing around the livestock, right? So use of modern temporary fencing may provide one practical solution to this dilemma. So there must be a proper fencing system that could be a temporary or a modern type of fencing that we are going, and it is a cheaper even, right? So that we can go. Second, the long-term carrying capacity and the stocking rate must take into the account short and long-term droughts. Finally, the manager must achieve sufficient control to reduce the overuse in some areas while other areas go unused. So this is the task of the manager, that is taking care of the grazing, actually all the livestock management. Prolonged concentration of a stock that results in the permanent loss of vegetative cover on unplanned or in riparian zone should be avoided, right? So the prolonged concentration of a stock that result in permanent loss of vegetation cover. There should not be a permanent, every time we should not take our livestock to the same place for foraging, for grazing, right? However, small-scale loss of vegetative cover around the water or feed through may be tolerated. Okay, small loss of the vegetation cover can be tolerated, but it should be a balanced way, right? That it should not, because if it is in uncontrolled, then there will be a loss of biodiversity also. Then that is not a sustainable animal management. Confined livestock production. Animal health and the waste management are the key issues in the confined livestock operation. So this is also very important. We must take care of the animal and their waste management. The moral ethical debate taking place today regarding animal welfare is particularly intense for confined livestock production system. The issues raised in the debate need to be addressed. So waste management is a very, very big problem. Health of animal is also an issue when you are going for such a big animal production livestock management. So confinement livestock production is increasingly a source of a surface and a groundwater pollutant, particularly where there are large number of animals per unit area. It has been seen that if in a particular area the number of animals are large, right, so somehow they are going to pollute the groundwater, right, as well as the surface water. So the extensive waste management facilities are now necessary and the cost of confined production system. So we must manage the waste. We must manage this waste. There is a requirement of management for this enormous waste production, right? And it also required a certain cost. So we must see that if we are having so many livestock production and it is we are spending some cost on its waste management, whether this cost is high or on the basis of the profit which we are getting from this animal. So this we must keep in mind. Waste is a problem of almost all operation and must be managed with respect to both environment and the quality of life in nearby communities. So we must see that how to manage this waste management of waste from the this livestock production that are going to harm to the environment or the nearby communities. Like if it is polluting the surface water, if it is polluting the groundwater, then of course it is going to affect the nearby communities. So livestock production system that disperse stock in the pastures so the waste are not concentrated and do not overwhelm natural nutrient cycling process have become a subject of renewed interest. Okay, so this is all about this session. Thank you very much.